Hello and welcome back to today's lesson on the integumentary system. Today we're going to talk about membranes specifically. So we're looking at the membranes of the integumentary system. At the end of today's lesson, you will be able to list the four membranes of the integumentary system. You'll be able to identify where each of those would be found. You'll be able to give me the function of those membranes. And lastly, you'll be able to describe the importance of each membrane and the consequences that would result if they were not present. So let's get started. Your skin is composed of four membranes. There are two kinds of categories. One is epithelial. And your epithelial membranes include your cutaneous membrane, your mucous membrane, and your serous membrane. We'll talk about each of those in a second. But these are coverings and linings. Your other type of membrane is called a synovial membrane. There's only one of these. So you have cutaneous, mucous, serous, and then your one other is your synovial, or your four membranes. Your cutaneous membrane is essentially your skin. This functions to protect you against bacteria, along with other pathogens. It protects against radiation in the form of melanin. So the reason people go out and get tan is because you have melanin in your skin that absorbs that UV radiation and protects you from sunburn and other negative consequences to that UV exposure. The bacteria, your body produces an acid substance. So you have acidic secretions that protects you against bacteria. It kind of neutralizes and kills them on the outside of your skin. Doesn't work against all of them, but that's one of the functions you have to protect you from bacteria. Your skin also functions to retain water. And this is really important, being as 66 to 70% of our body is composed of water. So keeping that inside of us is a good thing. And the way it does that is you have different layers. And the stratum corneum, which we'll talk about, is keratinized or hardened. And so it acts like a watertight seal, which prevents water from escaping to the outside. And then your skin is full of this keratin, or dead cells that are hardened and create kind of a waterproof layer, or a water reduction layer. Your next lining, your next membrane is called your mucous membrane. Your mucous membrane forms a lining of what do we call open body cavities. So if you think back to Unit 1, those open body cavities are lined by a mucous membrane. So your digestive tract, your respiratory tract, your urinary system, and your reproductive system are all lined by a mucous membrane. These are considered wet membranes that are nearly always covered in secretions. That secretion is actually mucus, but it lubricates them and keeps them from drying out, which is important. But this is a diagram showing you your respiratory tract, along with a little bit of your digestive system as well, lined by that mucous membrane. Your serous membrane. So mucous membranes line open body cavities. Serous membranes line closed body cavities, so cavities without an opening to the outside. So these are closed cavities. You have two layers to a serous membrane. The outside layer, the layer most superficial, is called your parietal membrane, and the inner layer is called the visceral membrane. So the visceral covers the organ, and the next one lines the organ to whatever's outside of it. In between these two membranes, you have what's known as serous fluid. This is a clear watery fluid that acts as a lubricant, which prevents friction from your two membranes. Some other terms you need, kind of an important one, is called your peritoneum. Your peritoneum is a serous lining that lines your abdominal cavity. Lines your abdominal cavity and covers your organ cavities. So your peritoneum lines your abdomen, which contains all of your digestive organs. Your pleura. Anything pleura is referring to the lungs. So you have a visceral pleura and a parietal pleura, which are shown here. Visceral is attached to the lungs. Parietal actually lines the outside of your lungs, so almost attaches to your rib cage. And those are your two linings. And then you have your pericardium. And so cardium refers to the heart. So you have a visceral and parietal pericardium. Visceral being attached directly to the heart, parietal being outside of that. Our last type of membrane, again, those three were called epithelial membranes. So your cutaneous, your mucous, and your serous membranes are all epithelial membranes. The last one's your synovial. Synovial membranes are composed of a soft areolar, meaning soft and vascularized connective tissue that contains no epithelial cells at all. So these types of membranes, your synovial membranes, line your joints. So these are capsules surrounding your joints. We're going to talk about joints in a couple units, and we're going to talk about synovial joints, which are joints that move. These are all lined by synovial membranes. So they provide a smooth surface, and they secrete synovial fluid, which is a lubricating fluid to prevent friction. These guys contain what we know as bursa sacs. If you ever popped a bursa sac, it really hurts, and that's because you're preventing that fluid from being secreted, and so you get more friction. It's very painful. But this is your synovial membrane here. So again, you have your synovial membrane on the outside, your synovial fluid in the middle, and that all prevents friction between your bones. Really quick for a review, I would like you to name and describe the functions of the four membranes, and then I want to know which three of those are classified as epithelial membranes. If you can do that, we're good to go. If you have questions, please let me know. Otherwise, thank you for your time and attention today. I look forward to continuing this with you in the near future, and I will see you next time.